Welcome, welcome one and all. Winter Wizard here, and in this video I'm going to be giving Lord Commander Typhus here a new weapon. Thank you very much for joining me today, whoever you are, and welcome to another installment of my little mini-series for the Drowned Plague, Disgusting Conversions. So we've got a model here. This is Typhus, Herald of the Plague God, or as he's known in the Drowned Plague, this is Lord Commander Typhus, second in command only to Gargle Deep himself. So I've been thinking about ways of how to make models in the Drowned Plague a little bit more unique, and always thought about doing something a little bit more unique with Typhus here, and so I was trailing through Games Workshop, looking at all the lovely models, and I was having a look at the Rotbringers from the Age of Sigmar range, you see, and I had a little, and I saw this guy here. I think he's the Lord of Afflictions, that's the one, and I noticed he was carrying this Trident, and I thought, that's perfect. And I thought to myself, as soon as I saw that, I thought to myself, well, Typhus, I think he needs that Trident, and so I've been trying to get a hold of it from eBay, but I couldn't manage to find it anywhere. So I bit the bullet. I bought the box. I'm probably going to sell some of the bits in here, but now I've got a nice little backlog of bits and bobs to be using for some conversions. But anyway, the Trident, and I thought, and I just thought it was perfect. I thought it was perfect. Deep sea-nautical theme, Death Guard army, second in command, needs to have a signature weapon, I think. And big fan of the Scythes, always have been with the Death Guard. But well, I just thought that this was perfect. So that's what we're going to do today. It's cold and lonely here in Winter Wizard's Frozen Fortress. It's coming up to late afternoon. We've got a nice cup of tea over there, Martian chamomile, and I'm joined as always by my friend and co-host, Norwegian troll Dimmu. So this is going to be nice, just going to be nice and relaxed. We're going to work through this process and try and figure out how to do this thing. You see some of the other videos in the Disgusting Conversions mini-series were conversion work that I did quite some time ago. When I wasn't making videos, so I've gone back and tried to talk through the process of how I did the conversion, but you don't actually get to see me doing it in the flesh. So I thought this time it'd be good to actually video the process of trying to figure out how to do this, and you get to see my thought process and execute it and the final result. And then I've already done one showcase paint and reference video for Typhus, but I'm pretty sure that I'll do another one once I've given him his new weapon. So we're going to jump into this, and I've got a few things here. Oh, I've also found a nice slushy tentacle in the box, in the Postgold Blight Launch box as well. So I'm going to think of trying to give that to him as well. A nice little additional feature to make him a little bit more unique. But I've got a few tools here that I think we're going to need. A good scalpel, a little drill, some pins. You'll see why we're going to use them in a bit, and some glue. And I'm thinking I probably would need a little modelling saw, but I don't have one. And quite frankly, I really wanted to get this video. Really wanted to get on with this video. So I think a scalpel will be fine though if we take our time. You'll see. So I'm going to zoom in now, and I'm going to take a closer look at the Trident, the tentacle, Typhus, and try and figure out how we're going to do this. Here we are then, so let's have a look at this. So this is the Trident here. My one of my initial thoughts was maybe sticking it in this hand like so, and maybe doing something else with the lifted up hand, because in the box there's this chap here. He seems to be being held up by his head and spewing vomit and God knows what else all over the place. Poor chap. But I was thinking of maybe putting that on the hand up here, so he's like carrying somebody around, and have the Trident down here. There's another little feature, but I think I've gone off that idea. predominantly because of the angle that this trident would be. If this arm isn't quite high enough to have it sticking up like so, that would have been very cool. And if it's down here, well, the angle's not the best for, you know, I really want this to be a focal feature, you know, a real focal point. I just think that angle's maybe not quite doing it. It's a little bit awkward, you know, maybe in pictures and showcases and stuff. And like I said, I really want this weapon to be a unique feature, so I'm thinking of putting it in the other hand. Maybe twisting, I'm thinking maybe taking his hand off, maybe gluing this on at some point like so, and having it like he's lifting it up, displaying it, you know, this this monstrous weapon that he's got. So something like that, I think. I think that'll look pretty good in photos, and I think that's a good pose. And this tentacle here, a couple of ideas with that. We could either put it on his arm, around this arm. I'm gonna have to do some work with it, but maybe it could be like that, tucking in this arm there. Or I'm thinking maybe on the other side, coming out from underneath this arm. Well, I don't want it to look like a tail, but I'm thinking if we shave that up a bit, we could maybe get it to stick in just under his arm. Just under his arm, under here. And it's like the tentacles coming out of his arm. Have that worked around and maybe slush around like so. Maybe something like that. It's just another little feature. But I'm going to come back to the tentacle. Yeah, something like that. That might look quite good, actually. That with the trident up like so. Yeah, so I think that's going to be the plan. I think we're going to go with that. See how that goes. Well, this is what this video is about. It's all about figuring it out and working it out. So so we'll start with a trident. Now what we're going to need to do, I'm thinking, is to cut this whole hand off. I'll reuse the hand, but I'm going to cut it off. I think that should be doable. So we can twist it that way a bit and turn it around a bit and have the trident more sort of that way, as opposed to like that. So you can see a bit more of it from the front. I think that would look good. But the hand that's actually on the trident at the moment, this is a left hand. So I'm going to keep the hand that Typhus has. I'm thinking of cutting the... Yeah, I'm thinking of cutting the scythe here and here. I think that'll do it. Cutting the hand off here and here on the trident, and then gluing this on either side. And that is going to be where the pins are going to come in. So the pins, I think, if we can drill into the shaft of the trident here and on the other side and into the hand, I can probably put a pin and drill through the hand as well. Put a pin all the way through, stick these on each side, so you'll have a pin running through each of the shafts and through the hand, and that should give it a lot more strength, because I don't really want to just plastic glue that and that onto there. They'll probably be quite vulnerable to snapping. So, well, that's the thought. I know, I appreciate I've been rambling a bit, but that's the thought process there. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to start by trying to take this hand off. Yeah, I've zoomed in a little bit more here, and we're just going to bite the bullet and go for this. So I've got some clippers here as well, actually. What we're going to do to start with, I'm just going to, oh boy, going to clip this. Say goodbye to the Man Reaper, the Scythe. So I think first I'm going to clip just here below this little metal join there. Always use the flat edge. Always use the flat edge of the clippers against the bit that you want to keep as tidy as possible. So I'm going to clip just there, and around the other side here as well. I'm going to keep, there's another little bit of metal there, like a little bit of metal where it joins on there, so I'm going to clip on that side, on the other side, and then trim that off, and just so we've got a little bit of extra to work with. I mean, I'll probably end up clipping it off at some point anyway, but it's good to have a little bit more to work with than what you might need. So we're going to clip that there, and yeah, and we'll take it off just in here as well. You can't quite see that right now, I apologise. There we go. So that's what we've got. That's what we've got to work with. And the little bit of excess on that metal join there, clip that off, and then what we'll do is we'll take a scalpel and smooth that, or we'll tidy that up in a bit. We're going to get rid of the hand, but what we can do is we can smooth that around that little bit that's, you see it's a bit square on the end there, but we'll tidy that up in a bit. So we're going to get to work on that. I'm taking the hand off. Yeah, so this is the bit where the hobby saw would come in useful. Well, I don't have one of those, but I do have these scalpels, and they are extremely sharp. They are surgical scalpels. Swan, what is it? Swan Morton. Very nice indeed. But yeah, so we're going to I think this will do the trick. What we're going to do is we're going to very gently Or is it nice and flat? Yeah, so just there, going flat against the wrist joint. We're just going to slowly start working that in. It will take a bit longer with a scalpel rather than a saw, but that's okay. That's okay. So I'm just very slowly just applying a bit more pressure and working that in. Start working that in. Yeah. And then I'll work it around the other sides, and it's about just little slices, little cuts. And we're going to work that round to the other side, just working it around, get a nice smooth little bits of cuts. And like so. Starting to do the trick. Applying just a little bit more pressure, just starting to gently saw into the wrist. Take the plastic away. So yeah, it's definitely going in there. And you're going to have to work that around the wrist. And it's going to take a while with a knife, especially when we get round to where the gauntlet meets the hand. But I'm gonna stop the camera and I'm gonna get to work at that. Just take your time. If you're doing anything like this, take your time. Have some patience and just gently scrape the plastic away, and we'll eventually work that hand off of the joint. So I'm gonna get to that. Alright then, so we're back, and as you can see, Typhus has lost his hand. There it is. And so it didn't take too long really, 5 minutes or so, just gently sawing with the blade, being nice and careful, and it's come off pretty well. I think it was probably glued there at some point. rather than just being a solid piece of plastic. But there it is, and I've smoothed it out. So there's two nice flat surfaces to work with. So when that goes back on, we can twist it to fiddly. When that goes back on, we can twist it to whatever sort of angle we desire. There we go. When I was doing that, actually, as you can see, the destroyer hive fell off, but nothing's broken. Just need to glue him back in place. But I'm going to leave that. We'll do that at the end. So the next thing we're going to be doing is I'm going to be getting this trident onto this hand. What I'm thinking is that, well, it's got like this cloth wrapping on the trident here, and I like that. But that doesn't really coincide with what he's already holding in his hand. So I'm thinking what we're going to do is we're going to take off these metal chinks as expected, and then cut around this hand here, and then join the cloth bits up to where, well, there's a bone handle in here at the moment. But I'm thinking maybe with a little bit of green stuff, maybe, or even just with paint. Just paint it to look the same. I'm sure it'll blend in nicely. But we'll get to that. We'll see how it looks. Well, that's going to be the next thing. Yeah, so we've got clippers again, and we're going to clip off this hand. Try and get it as nice and straight as possible. And yeah, just round about there. And on the other side as well. Right there. Lovely. And then that one's quite crooked, but that one's pretty straight. But then what we're going to do, we're going to get a file, smooth those out, so give it just a nice flat surface to work with, straight and flat, like so. And on the other one, need a little bit more. And we're just going to take the knife and just trim that off, get it a bit flatter, a bit smoother, and then file it off. Like so. Good. So we've got our two bits of trident, and now we're going to fix those onto this hand. Yeah, so I've just done the same with the hand. Clipped off those metal chinks, got it nice and flat, and then smoothed it out with a file. So what I'm thinking is this is going to be where we poke a little hole in the middle with our scalpel, right in the center. Twist the blade around a little bit. That's going to give us a nice little groove to work with for our drilling. And I'm going to do that on the other side. So I'm a bit nervous about this. I really do hope this goes alright. We're going to get a nice slim drill head. Try and drill possibly all the way through that. Yeah, so we've got our grooves here, and we've got a pin, and that should be able to go through there. You know, it's not too thick. There's enough space, I think, to get that all the way through. So we've got a hobby drill here, and I've chosen a drill bit that is just a fraction bigger than the pin itself. So that should do the trick. So we're gonna start trying to drill through this hand here. So the trick with this, I'm thinking, is going to be to try and get it as straight as possible. I'm hoping this is going to go alright. This is actually the smallest drill bit I've got, so it will have to do. But, yeah, and to keep it as straight as possible, that's why it's as important to have that little starting groove that just helps, I find. So I'm gonna, we're just gonna go for it. Position that nice and straight. Just start slowly. Just gently start drilling through, keeping it straight. It's all about just using your eyes really, and to not rush, take your time. It seems to be working nicely, so we'll just be nice and slow and keep that as straight as possible. So I'm going to continue with this, and let's see how I get on. There we are then, so that's the hand drilled all the way through. You can see that the plastic has split slightly here, which is annoying, but not the end of the world. We can still create a strong join with that, and if need be, a little green stuff to finish up the final result. But yeah, that's it's looking pretty good. So we're going to undo that, and the trick is we're going to have to do the same with both ends of the handle. But if we can, it should work out fine. There we go. So we'll join on just like so. So we'll start with, let's get a pin through here first. See if that works. There, look at that, perfect. It is loose, but that's fine. All it is it's going to be a nice bit of strength for when if the handle moves around. You see, it's going to give you that nice little bit of extra strength to it. And what we will do, of course, is with the clippers, they'll get through this no problem. Clip off the sharp end and the butt there as well. And clip it about there and there. Doesn't need to be huge, just enough to give it a bit of support for the handle and the head as well. So I think what we'll do next is, yeah, we'll drill through I'm going to get the drill out again. I'm going to drill through the end here on the head of the trident. Just giving myself another little starting point, little hole right in the center. And on the handle as well. So that'll be the next thing. I'm going to drill, I think, probably maybe down to about here. Yeah, maybe down to about there. And on here, up to about here. Should be enough. That's a bit of support. So we'll do that next. I'll come back. There we are, so we've drilled through the two pieces of the handle on the trident. You can see just here how where the plastic is looking a bit white. There's a weakness there where the drill veered off, started drilling the wrong way out. So that's why you've got to be really careful, really slow. Try and keep it as straight as possible. But if you notice, and you know, if you notice that happening, just stop. Try and manipulate the drill the other way if you can, and yeah, you can see a little hole there, but a little bit of plastic glue should probably melt that back together, and I think we've got enough enough gap in the pin, in the handle, for the pin to sit nice and straight anyway. Yeah, as you can see. So the plan of action with the Trident here, we've got the head. What we're going to do, we're going to get some super glue in a minute, and then we're going to glue this pin in there nice and straight like so. Then we're going to get the hand. We'll take the top off, the butt of the pin off there, and thread this hand onto the pin, glue that together with plastic glue like so, bit of super glue in there maybe as well, and then we'll work out how much of this pin we need left, and we'll slide this bit onto the bottom there. So I'll get some super glue out, we'll start with the top and work our way from there. So I've got some super glue here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to blob a little bit of it on this palette here and work with it from there. So just a blob like so. You probably can't see that, but that's alright. And take the pin, if I could pick it up. I'm going to take the pin, I'm going to dip the end in the glue and then poke it through the hole. So I'm just soaking some of that on the end of the pin. Not too much, but enough. And then we're going to poke that into there. Make sure it's sticking nice and straight before we leave it. A little bit more maybe once it's in there. And there we go, we're going to keep that nice and straight. I'll say it like so. It's really difficult, it's going to be so hard to get it perfectly straight, but just as straight as you can and it should look alright. There we go, so I'm going to leave that nice and still and let that dry before we do anything else. Yeah, so that should be nice and dry. You can encourage it with a bit of activator if you've got some, which I just did. So next thing we're going to do, we're going to get the clippers back again, and we're going to clip the end off this pin. Be quite tough, but just be careful. There we go. And you want to make sure that the glue is nice and dry, because you don't want to be moving it around when you're trying to clip. There we go. So next thing to do, we're going to thread the hand on, and we're going to super glue it as well, I think. But let's just get it on first and see what we're working with. So there it is, on like so. And when we are gluing it, we've got to bear in mind which direction he's going to be holding the trident, how it's going to look once it goes on the model. So just play with that and get a sort of an idea before we start applying some glue. And then when you're ready, we can do the same again. So what I think we'll do is it'd be good to have a bit of glue inside that. So I've still got some glue fresh on the palette down here. Again, I'm sorry you can't see that, but so we're gonna just work a bit of that glue. I might put a little bit more on. Put that on the palette and just work that glue around the pin. Nice and thin, but you don't want loads of this on. You'll get loads of residue. That's not what we want. So we've got a bit of that wrapped around the handle. Well, around the pin, rather. And then we're going to thread that back onto the hand. Push that through. There it is. get it into position. Just gonna get the model back and just make sure we're happy with the way that looks. Once it's going to be on, so it's going to be around about there, I think. And twist it this way a little bit more. Like so, I think. Yeah. Twist it this way a little bit. You can already feel it starting to dry, so just trying to concentrate here. But yeah, I think the final product, it'll look something like that. Something like that. So just get it into position, get it, plan ahead, think about how you want it to look. I think that'll be pretty good, just like that. Yeah, so I'm going to let that dry. Yeah, so that's drying nicely, and what you can see is that the join between the handle on the hand and the shaft of the trident there, you know, it's not flushed. It's a little bit disjointed, but it's straight, and it's pretty straight, and that's a great start. Because what we can do, we can build up the rope, the binding for the handle. We'll get a little bit of green stuff, maybe put a little bit of that on. But also, what we can do is, so the super glue on the pin is drying inside the handle itself, which is going to give it a nice strength. Going to protect it from potentially snapping. But what we can also do is, if we get a little bit of plastic glue, what this glue is going to do is it's going to melt the two plastics. So I'm going to just put a bit of this around the two where the join is, and if you leave that, that's going to melt the plastic, and it should, when it dries, bind them together. So that's going to add another layer of strength to that join. See? You can see the where it broke. You can see just a little glint of metal where the pin is showing through, where the plastic split. But like I said, a little bit of green stuff. We're going to sort that out. That'll be no problem at all. But so far, going well. So we're going to repeat that process once that plastic glue is dried on the other end. And we're going to get this handle onto there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the handle on first, get a bit of an idea as to how much of this pin we're going to need to clip off. So not a lot, really, just a little bit. So what is that? I don't know, but we can just clip off maybe about that much off the end. I think it's around about that much. So I'm going to clip that off. And what I'm doing is I'm putting my fingers around it, around the pin, to sort of catch it as it flies off, so it doesn't flick over the other end of the room or into your eye. So I've clipped a bit of that off. I'm going to try the handle again. Perfect. Look at that. And then, same process. I'm going to put some super glue on the pin itself. And we might put a little bit of plastic glue. Not too much, because it's where the hand is as opposed to another piece of wood. But maybe a bit around this side. But then once we glue that, that should be pretty straight. Maybe a tiny bit crooked, but that's okay. This is Nurgle after all. But yeah, if you glue it straight as possible, we can plug up any gaps with green stuff, melt it with plastic glue. So just find a position that looks good to you. And there, I think maybe. and then glue it in place. So I'm going to do that now, and then we'll come back. There we are then, so that's the Trident. I think that's pretty good. I'm very happy. Very happy. It looks pretty straight. Maybe slightly warped in a natural sort of way, but I think that's really good. So you can see that there is a bit of a gap between it and the hand. Maybe you can see that. And in between here, you can see just a little glint of metal in there. So what we're going to do, we've got some green stuff here. If you don't know what green stuff is, well, you buy it sort of like so. It's yellow and blue. Break a bit off, equal parts yellow, blue, mix it together. Just twist it and roll it and mix it. And it's going to turn green, and when it turns green, you can mould with it, then leave it to dry, leave it to set, and it sets solid as a rock. It's soft like a putty when it's like this, and it continues to be soft when it's green, but then once you leave it, it dries, there's some sort of reaction goes on, and it dries very solid. So that's looking good. It's pretty green. Twist that a little bit more. So I'm going to get my palette back because this stuff can be very sticky. It's looking pretty green and good at the moment. Just stick that on there. And I've got an old knife. This isn't the scalpel I've been using. This is an old one. Blade's pretty dull, but I use this for the dirtier jobs, you see. So we're going to just cut a bit of this off, just like so. And we're going to try and put this, we're going to try and plug this little gap here. Really don't need very much of this at all. I'm going to work quickly because it will start to set. I'm just going to poke that into the gap. Work that in. Like so. Yeah, all into those little bits. So I'm just smoothing this around with the knife, with my fingers, just working it in, getting it nice and smooth and flat, just until you sort of think it looks good. You can sort of sculpt it a little bit, try and get a bit of a shape to match the cloth, the bandage that's already wrapped around it. Yeah, there's quite a bit too much on here, so try and get a bit of this excess off. Like that. It seems to be going pretty well. There we go. Yes, just make that nice and smooth. But the gap is all nice and filled, and that's the important thing. Once you've got it looking pretty nice, the important thing is just to leave it alone. Leave it alone, let it set, let it dry. Green stuff, it starts going firm relatively quickly, but to fully set it will take a bit of time, a bit of a while. I'm going to add just a little bit more of this. Alright, there we are then. So I've been playing around with the green stuff for a while. I certainly would never say I had any talent for sculpting, but just been working it and working it around and playing with it, and moved over to a file here, slightly smoother edge to work on with, and I think that's going to look alright. Once there's some paint on it, can always, I mean, this is Nurgle, we can always cover it up with some rots and some gore, can't we? So But I think that's going to look alright once there's some paint on it. I've got a little bit of green on the fingers and stuff, but we can paint over that again. It's just really about clogging up them gaps. But I think that should be okay. So we're gonna stop messing around with this and let it dry. So while the Trident, while the green stuff on the Trident is drying, that is going to take quite some time. So we're gonna not touch it, but we're gonna carry on here. It's sun's going down here in Winter Wizard's Frozen Fortress. So I do apologise if there is a sort of changing of the lighting of how the video looks, but we're gonna press on anyway. So what we're gonna do, I think we're gonna glue this Trident onto him. So get in a position that you think is going to look good, and some plastic glue should do it, I think. But I might actually use the super glue. Super glue is quite brittle, which means it can be susceptible to snapping, but we'll see how this goes. Yeah, so we've got the super glue here. We're going to put a little bit of that on, if I can get it out, a little bit of that on the top there. So that's on the wrist guard there. But then I'm also going to put a little bit of plastic glue around here. The best of both worlds. I'm not mixing them, that's not what I'm doing. But I'm putting the plastic glue just on the flat bit, so the plastic will melt together, forge the two bits together, but then the super glue on the back there just to give it a little bit of extra support. And we're going to put this down. It'll start to set in a minute. Let's get it on a place that it feels like it's comfortable, that looks good. There we are then, so his hand is just about dry. There's a little bit of super glue residue showing, but once we get some paint on this, that'll be no problem at all. We can cover that up. And so the next thing we're going to do, we're going to leave that, and then shan't be painting it today, I don't think. I'm going to let the green stuff dry nice and fully. But we've also got this tentacle to put on somewhere, so I'm going to have a play with that and think about where to stick that. So we're just going to cut it and mould it to the right sort of size, and again with a little bit of green stuff. I'm going to stick that somewhere. I'm still thinking maybe under his arm here. I'm going to stick the destroyer hive back on. We might add some. I've got some chains here. Chains is something that I like to add onto my models. There's another video in this playlist discussing conversions, rusted corroded chains. So if you want to see how I like to convert my Death Guard models with them, please go and check that out. But I'm thinking I might wrap some round the handle just to give it a little extra feature. So I'm going to play around with those bits. I'm going to stick this back on, see if I can get this tentacle somewhere, and maybe put some chains on as well, and then we'll come back and have a look at the finished result. Alright then, there we are. So I've been fiddling and playing around with it for ages. The sun has very much set here. It is night time now in Winter Wizard's Frozen Fortress, and Typhus has his new weapon. So there it is, the Trident, all fastened there, and we've put some chains on it too. Just a nice little touch, I think. And tentacle here, so I'll show you that. So I've got that with a bit of green stuff, just like so. So it looks like it's coming out of his armpit or his arm or something like that. And I've fastened the destroy, stuck the destroy hive back on his back. So there it is. So I hope you've enjoyed the video, and that is how Bloody hell, Typhus got himself a Trident. There we have it. So that's another episode of Disgusting Conversions finished. In this little episode of the series, we had a little look at how to give Typhus a Trident weapon, something a little bit more unique and fitting of the character in the army. And please do check out some of the other videos in this little series. I've got some more on the planned and on the way as well. If you have enjoyed the video today, then a like and a comment would be very, very much appreciated. And if you'd like to see more of what goes on here inside the Frozen Fortress, then perhaps you'll also consider becoming a subscriber. And once again, whoever you are, thank you very, very much for joining me today. I'm Winter Wizard, that's Dimmu, and for now, keep it frosty.